Loyal love rarely arrives with fanfare. It doesn't demand attention, doesn't manipulate, doesn't chase spotlight or clamor for control. Loyal love waits, it watches, it sacrifices, it honors. And when it enters the story, everything changes. The story of Ruth and Boaz is not just a love story. It is a love story between heaven and earth, between divine providence and human fidelity. It is, above all, a story about what happens when timing, loyalty, and holiness meet. Ruth was not the ideal candidate for a fresh start. She was a foreigner, a widow, childless, poor. She had no dowry, no prospects, no tribe. But she had one thing that burned brighter than all her deficits: loyalty. Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God. These words, spoken to her mother-in-law Naomi, were not performative. They were covenantal. Ruth bound herself not just to a family, but to the God of Israel. Boaz was a man of standing, wealth, and honor. But what sets him apart is not his land, it's his character. In a time when judges ruled and chaos reigned, Boaz kept God's law. He didn't exploit. He didn't chase power. He lived righteously in the quiet corners of his field, respecting the gleaners, providing for the poor, and offering protection to the vulnerable. Their meeting was not chance. Ruth came to glean in Boaz's field as it happened, but Scripture is never casual. Divine fingerprints are all over the scene. Boaz sees her, hears of her loyalty, and shows her favor. But unlike modern stories of instant romance, this one unfolds with reverence, slowness, and a kind of sacred restraint. There is no rushing, no games, just integrity. When Ruth lays at Boaz's feet in the night, it is not seduction. It is a bold act of trust in the law of Levirate redemption. She is not asking for a fling. She is asking to be covered, protected, brought into covenant. Boaz doesn't take advantage. He honors her. He shields her reputation. He does the right thing, even when the right thing is slow and inconvenient. He seeks the nearer Redeemer first. He goes to the gate. He does everything in the light. This is what loyal love looks like: quiet faithfulness, public righteousness, private purity. It's not just that Boaz loved Ruth, it's that he loved God first, and therefore loved her rightly. And it's not just that Ruth was beautiful or bold, it's that she feared God more than she feared rejection. This is what made them safe for one another. In a culture obsessed with spark and spectacle, the story of Ruth and Boaz is a rebuke and a relief. It reminds us that love is not found in frenzy, but in fidelity. That holiness is not an obstacle to love, but the foundation of it. That when two people walk in honor, God writes the ending. For modern dating, their story is a kind of compass, not a formula, but a guide. Ruth didn't pursue men. She pursued loyalty. She served, she stayed, she walked humbly. Boaz didn't play. He protected, provided, discerned, and acted. They both listened for the voice of duty over desire. And when the moment came to act in faith, they did. Too often, modern relationships are wrecked by entitlement, haste, flippancy, and confusion about roles. Ruth and Boaz offer an alternative. A vision where women are valued not for flash, but for faithfulness. Where men are strong, not in domination, but in restraint and responsibility. Where timing matters more than urgency, and character matters more than chemistry. They were not perfect people, but they were people who chose what was good again and again, and God honored it. He gave them not just marriage, but legacy. Ruth became the great-grandmother of David, the ancestor of Christ. That's what loyal love does. It ripples beyond itself. It touches eternity. So for those who wait, for those who have loved and lost, who feel disqualified, who wonder if anything holy can be born from brokenness, the story of Ruth and Boaz says this: God is not done. Timing matters, character counts, and loyal love is never wasted. This is not the kind of love you swipe for. It is the kind you pray for, prepare for, become worthy of. It doesn't come on demand, it comes on God's time, and when it does, it will not just make you feel good, it will make you holy. Before Ruth ever gleaned in Boaz's field, she left everything she knew behind. Moab was her land, her language, her religion, her family, her security. But she chose a different path. She walked into a land where she had no status, no covering, no voice. Her loyalty to Naomi was not just relational, it was theological. She left idols behind to follow the living God. That kind of love is not born from emotion, it's born from conviction. And Boaz, he was not the only man with land, but he was the only one with the kind of heart that could see her, not just as a foreigner or a beggar, but as a woman of valor. He had options, but he didn't chase options. He recognized covenant. He didn't act on impulse. He acted on truth. He waited, he asked, he covered. Gleaning in Scripture is more than gathering grain. It is a picture of grace. It is the act of receiving what you did not sow. Ruth gleaned in Boaz's field because he obeyed the law that commanded landowners to leave the edges of their fields for the poor, the orphan, the widow. And Boaz didn't just allow it, he multiplied it. He told his workers to drop extra on purpose. He made space for Ruth to thrive without begging. That is godly masculinity. Covering is often misunderstood. In a world where dominance masquerades as strength, the biblical concept of covering sounds outdated or oppressive. But Boaz shows us the truth. Covering is not control, it is protection, it is provision, it is saying, I will bear the cost to keep you safe. Christ would later fulfill this image perfectly. He is our ultimate kinsman redeemer who spread his garment of righteousness over us at the cross. When Boaz says to Ruth, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first." He recognizes not just her need, but her nobility. He sees that she didn't chase younger men, but honored covenant. He sees that her loyalty is not transactional, it is holy. That is the kind of discernment that births generational blessings. Modern dating has lost its sense of awe. We swipe past souls like profiles. We ghost, orbit, breadcrumb, and rationalize detachment as empowerment. But the story of Ruth and Boaz stops us in our tracks. It says, no, wait, look again. It says you don't have to market yourself to be loved. You don't have to manipulate to be seen. You don't have to compromise to be chosen. There is a divine choreography in their story. Timing that doesn't rush, words that don't flatter, touch that doesn't take. Boaz and Ruth walk slowly in a culture of speed. They walk upright in a world of collapse. And because of that, their story isn't just beautiful, it's sacred. If you are a Ruth, waiting and wondering, feeling invisible in a loud world, let this remind you, God sees. Stay faithful in the gleaning, serve quietly, speak honestly. Let your loyalty shine louder than your resume. You are not behind, you are being prepared. If you are a Boaz, wondering how to lead, how to love without losing honor, let this steady you. Lead with holiness. Let your power be gentle. Let your strength be safe. You don't need to prove anything to the crowd. Just be faithful at your gate, and God will write the rest. The world needs more Ruths, more Boazes. Not perfect people, but faithful ones. People who walk in step with heaven's timing, who believe that love is not a game to win, but a covenant to guard. People who understand that loyal love, slow, reverent, God-shaped love, is the rarest treasure in the field. And when that love appears, it won't feel like fireworks. It will feel like peace, like recognition, like a garment gently spread over your shoulders when the night feels long. It will not just make your heart beat faster. It will make your soul breathe deeper. That's what Ruth and Boaz found. That's what God still writes today. Wait for it. Walk worthy of it, and when it comes, receive it. Not as luck, but as legacy. Sometimes the delay is the preparation. Sometimes the silence is where God is stitching strength into your spirit. Ruth didn't know she was being watched as she gleaned. She didn't know her story would be told for generations. But she walked with honor when no one was watching. That's where legacy is built, in the hidden fields. Boaz did not rush the process. He didn't sidestep the legal steps. He went to the gate, faced the nearer Redeemer, upheld the law. He understood that love without righteousness is dangerous. That desire without boundaries leads to ruin. He walked in the light because real love is never ashamed of the daylight. To those who feel overlooked, your worth is not in who sees you, but in how you walk when no one does. To those who feel used, you were made for more than surviving love. You were made to carry it. To those who feel hardened, Boaz didn't run from Ruth's story. He stepped into it. The right person will not recoil from your past. They will honor how God has carried you through it. You don't have to force what is sacred. You don't have to hustle what is holy. You just have to become the kind of person who can steward love when it comes. Ruth didn't rehearse for Boaz. Boaz didn't scheme for Ruth. They both simply lived with integrity, and God crossed their paths. This is what will make the world better. Not louder voices, but deeper hearts. Not perfect people, but people who believe that holiness is still beautiful, who believe that love rooted in honor can still change a family, a generation, a nation. Be the Ruth who walks with conviction. Be the Boaz who acts with clarity. Be the one who sees love not as possession, but as calling. And when the time is right, you won't just find a partner. You'll find your field. You'll find your peace. You'll find that God writes the best love stories, not for those who perform, but for those who obey. And you'll know it's real when it leads you closer to Him.